Now here is the finality of this particular phase. There is a state, ladies and gentlemen, which I will define in several ways as follows. There is a state in which you live from a spirit, a free spirit inside of you. There is a state in which you are truly spiritual, truly have higher principles inside you that are living through you. There is a state in which you care nothing for the rewards of this world. There is a state in which you are not hammering at yourself, nagging at yourself, hitting yourself, criticizing yourself all day long, as you now do. You are free of all negative activity. And in its place is let's call it a flow of light, a flood of light, in which your entire day is lived in real happiness, which is freedom, which is absence of wrong involvement, in which you go through your day knowing where you are, knowing what you're doing, knowing what you say when you talk to other people. And this state can be so advanced that nothing from that outer world or from your inner world can make you nervous, can upset you, can make you cry, can do anything harmful to you at all. Now, what is the basis of this state of inner liberation? It is a state in which you don't know who you are by thinking about it, in which you know absolutely that you have nothing to do. You have nothing more to do because there is no one inside of you to do it. It is all done. You're set free. You just live freely and sanely and decently and kindly, because you have no enemies at all anymore. Come on, do a little work. How many times did you fight today? How many mental scenes went through your mind in which you pictured someone with whom you were fighting? Right? How many times today? Or are you so asleep, so unconscious, so wrongly involved with yourself that you have no idea what I'm talking about? Because you've never done it. You've never had the marvelous experience of seeing yourself engaging in a mental movie arguing with someone. I tell you, one day, if you keep coming back to these things, one bright day I'll tell you exactly what will happen to you. Oh, what a marvelous morning that will be. When you, in your nervousness and your fear and your anxiety, suddenly start churning inside and start unreeling the mental movie of you arguing or loving someone, which is just as phony. And because you don't want to be wrongly involved in your life, in your own life, all of a sudden you catch yourself right in the middle of telling that boss off, of yelling at that girlfriend who offended you. You catch yourself right in the middle of it, and it occurs to you in a flash of light. It occurs to you where you have been, and you call yourself back home. At that split second, the mental movie breaks. You know that you were walking down the street, or you know you were approaching the cafe. You know exactly what you were doing now because you're no longer lost in your own mind. You're no longer wandering around creating these scenes. Now listen, hang on. We've just begun. So you're walking down the street and you catch that, and in great wonderment at what happened to you, and you said, for 20 years I heard about that. I wrote about it. I thought about it. And this is for the first time in 20 years that I actually experienced it. And at last, after 20 years, I know what was being talked about. It happened to me. You know why that happened? Because 18 years ago, you made up your mind that you didn't want to be a hypocrite anymore. You made up your mind you didn't want to be a little sour neurotic, causing grief to other people, which means you had no conscience, which means you were an animal. You were an animal walking around behaving like a human being. You didn't kid yourself, did you? You know why? Because you clawed at yourself, didn't you, 18 years ago? But you made up your mind that you were tired of being an animal. You want to be a human being. So you begin to think about these things. And now look, you caught the first time when you're walking down the street. And you said, I've got it, I'm free. Oh, no, you're not. See how clever the dark forces are? You made a small little breakthrough. Now you go home, and 3 hours later, you catch yourself doing the same thing. 8 hours later, you catch yourself doing the same thing. 15 hours later, you catch yourself doing the same thing. You catch and break, catch and break, catch and break, catch and break. Till finally you don't catch yourself anymore and don't break yourself anymore because you don't live in that haunted house anymore. You have done it 100 times, 1,000 times, and you know for sure what you were like those years ago. And you know for sure, listen to this, you know for sure you don't want to go back. Isn't it a tragedy that people go around asking other people, how am I? That's a wrong involvement. Don't you do that? Aren't you asking people, please tell me that I'm okay, that I'm all right? Of course you do. That's why you go where you go and do what you do. You can stop all that wrong involvement. You can stay home with yourself. You won't have to fawn before anyone like you now do. You won't have to put on those phony smiles that you now do. You won't be a desperate human being like you now are. Look, why don't you take all this very seriously right now? I've described you, you know that. Why don't you be honest for a change instead of lying as you always do? Why don't you be honest for a change and say, that is right, show me more. Something will happen to you. You'll change inwardly. Wouldn't that be nice?